Hello students, how are you? So here I am with you again with a new and very interesting story. The Monkey's Paw. Before we begin the story, let's revise how many types of stories, rather plays, there are in your coursework. The first play that we read was A Marriage Proposal, a hilarious comedy. The second was A Refund, a very funny play. The third is The Boy Comes Home, again a humorous play. But this, the fourth and the last, is The Monkey's Paw, a horror story. So before we discuss the play itself, let's discuss what a horror story is. As the name signifies, a horror story is which creates horror or terror. But how does it create horror and terror? There can be two ways. First, as you must have seen in TV serials, the title itself, Band Darwaza, Khooni Darwaza, Purani Haveli, Purana Kila, Ahat, Bhoot, like. And what are the agents that arouse fear and terror? Some voices, dark rooms, dark passages, mysterious men and women, some mysteries and the like. But there is another way to create fear, and that is psychological fear. And that type of terror is inbuilt in the plot, inbuilt in the incidents, and that can't be external like in the first category that I described through voices and sounds and external paraphernalia and all. So this play that we are going to discuss now, The Monkey's Paw, has a mixture of the two. But primarily I would say that it is based on the second type, when horror has been built in the plot of the play. So we begin with the text. Do you have the books ready with you? Okay. Open your books where the text begins and the setting of the stage has been described. See, first we are shown a room. The setting of a room, and what is the last line in the setting? That a pleasant air pervades the room. It's a horror story, but a pleasant air pervades the setting. When the action begins, there are three actors or characters are visible on the stage. Mr. White, Mrs. White and their son Herbert. Mr. White and Herbert are playing chess, and Mrs. White is sitting at a distance doing something, and she is watching her husband and her son very pleasantly with a smile on her face. So the play begins with a scene of a happy family. A happy family. But we remember that the title of the play is The Monkey's Paw. Now, I'm taking this break from the action just to discuss the title a bit. When can you have an animal's paw? You can have the animal if it's living, but the paw only when the animal is dead. And if we have a dead animal's paw, it must be dried. So The Monkey's Paw, the title of the play, talks about a dead monkey's dried paw, which is horrible in itself, isn't it? But now, in the setting, in the action which we have seen till now, there is no reference to any horror or terror or fear. But if we read between the lines, if we listen to the discussions of the family closely, Mr. White, he discusses that the house they are sitting in at the moment, it is a house situated in a secluded place, and the road on which it is located, it is the only house on that road. So एक सुनसान जगह और उस पे एक सड़क पे एक इकलौता खड़ा मकान और उसमें 3 लोग। हालांकि वो अपने आप में बहुत खुश हैं, but there is a sound, and that sound is of the whistling of the wind, and that is introduction of something uneasiness. Now, from their discussion, we know that they have built this house with much labor, and Mr. White has to pay a loan of £200 on it. That is still pending to be paid. Herbert is a very jolly guy, very devoted son, who says that he will pay the loan with his labor, and he will marry after that, after he fulfills all the responsibilities that his parents had. Again, a happy family and a son that every parent would pray for. This is your Unit 1. Unit 2 introduces the 4th character, Sergeant Major Morris. Sergeant Major Morris is an old acquaintance of Mr. White, Herbert's father, and he is a soldier who had been working in India for many years. And whenever he visits Whites, he brings some stories for them. And this time, he has brought a story of a monkey's paw that some fakir in India had given to Sergeant Major Morris, and Morris tells the Whites that that paw has some spell on it. That spell is that the paw can fulfill 3 wishes of 3 different persons. So first 2 persons have had their wishes, 3 wishes, and now the one is to get his 3 wishes from him, but Morris says that this is something very dangerous, and if this paw fulfills wishes of any one person, it is after destroying him. And he also conveys to the Whites that the first person who got 3 wishes from this paw, his last wish was for death. And so he throws the paw in the fire. But Mr. White, without thinking much, he retrieves the paw from the fire and he asks Morris to give it to him. And from here, the action unfolds. He keeps the paw with him, wishes his first wish that he should get 200 pounds. Though Herbert asks him to wish for that very jollingly, very humorously, in a laughing way, just to test the paw. But the situations, the conditions and the circumstances unfolds themselves in such a manner that his wish, Mr. White's wish for 200 pounds is fulfilled, but it cost them the life of his dear son. Herbert dies that very night while working on a machine. And in compensation, his company sends Herbert's parents 200 pounds. Mrs. White is devastated. She asks her husband to get a second wish, and that is that his son should come back. But when they feel that the spirit of his son has come back, they are so frightened that the third wish is for Herbert's death again. Mr. White is so terrified that what would he see if Herbert comes back, that he wishes that Herbert should die again. And thus the play ends, teaching the audience that one should not wish for more than they can have with their honest labor. How it brought on the stage, how the action unfolds itself, and how it creates terror. That is you to see in your reading. So, though it creates pity and terror both, I hope you will enjoy the reading. So, happy reading, go ahead.